Important disclaimer. This tutorial involves working with ultraviolet resin. UV resin is a dangerous and toxic substance before fully cured. It is very important to work in a well-ventilated area and wear the proper PPE, i.e. gloves, goggles, and masks. You have been warned. First thing you're going to need is your completed tummy plate, of course. You're going to make sure that it's nice and varnished and that the creases and wrinkles are a little bit darker and deeper. You'll need thick medium, as well as a palette of colors. I have yellow ochre, burnt umber, Mars black, and I also have raw sienna. And then I have some sculpting tools here. This is just for mixing and building up and shaping the layers to create the umbilical cord. And I also have this little sponge in case we need to dab anything. And then I have this plate. It's got a little thinning medium on it, but it's not going to affect our paint mix. And then very last, I have some hard clear UV resin for the very end. Before we start adding the texturing medium, we're going to start with a nice base layer using these three colors here. I'm going to start with Mars Black and just dab it onto the tummy, getting into the creases to establish that nice dark base tone. Keep it within the areas of the belly button that is realistic. You don't want to go too far. Start blending in my other colors to add more depth. Starting with some burnt umber, I'm just going to tap it in and brush it into the black. And to really add realism, I'm going to start tapping in that yellow ochre, and that really gives that decomposition stage look of the umbilicus. Now be sure to wipe off any excess paint because we want to keep the size and shape realistic to an actual ready to fall off umbilical cord. Now I'm just going to go tap in more black to the base coat just to add more depth. And now the base coat is done, and I'm going to bake it in my oven 265 for 8 minutes. Now that your tummy plate is baked and cooled, we're going to actually build the umbilical cord using thick medium and the raw sienna that we had set aside. I'm going to take my sculpting tool here and just get out a small dab of thick medium to spread on the plate. And I'm just going to spread it until it's like a nice buttery consistency. And once I have the amount and consistency that I like, I'm going to go ahead and take my paintbrush and add the raw sienna into the mix until I get a nice vibrant yellow color. I use my tool to scrape any remnants back onto my plate. And I'll just keep mixing and grouping it all together until I'm ready to apply it to the belly button. Using an angled silicone sculpting tool, I'm going to scoop up the paint and apply it to the belly button in a way that it is kind of stacked and layered on top of each other to further add to the realism. I'll take my sponge and dab up any excess paint that is pooling or in any unwanted areas. Then I'll take my silicone tool and actually sculpt the thick medium in a way that looks super realistic. Once I'm happy with the umbilical cord that I have achieved, I'm going to go ahead and bake at 265 for 8 minutes, and then I will move on to my next step. Be sure to bake this step twice and fully cool in between each bake. Now that my tummy plate has been baked twice, this next step is pretty simple. I'm just going to take my brush and start layering on a little bit more of that mixture to seal it and coat it, as well as to add some more layers and depth to the realism. If I notice any spots that need to be filled in, I'm just going to take that same silicone tool and fill it in to add more layering to the umbilical cord. I absolutely love how this looks, but I'm going to take it a step further and add a little bit more depth. I'm going to take my paints with a detail brush, dip it into the mixture a little bit so that it catches the paint, and then I'm going to start detailing with the Mars Black, the yellow ochre, and the burnt umber simultaneously until I achieve the look that I am going for. And just like before, if I have any excess pooling of paint, I'm just going to blot it with my sponge. And now that I'm happy, I'm going to give this a bake, 265 for 8 minutes. And now we're going to seal this umbilical cord with UV resin. I use the crystal clear hard type, and I also use this UV resin sun curing lamp that is for nail art. I'm just going to take some of the resin that is in the cap of the bottle with the silicone sculpting tool and just start filling it in all of the grooves, all of the creases, and completely coat it all over. Now I'm going to take the UV resin lamp and hold it over in circular motions until it's cured for about 10 to 15 minutes. Now that the resin is cured, you can see that it's a little bit shinier than what I would like. So I'm going to go over it with some matte Mod Podge. It is the kind that's for decoupage. It is my favorite when working with resin. I'm just going to give it a nice coat over just to take out some of that shine. And then I'll let this dry for about a half hour. And now the umbilical cord is complete and it looks so real. I am so happy with it. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Feel free to leave any questions or comments in the comments section below and request the next tutorial. Bye!